Hey, my name is Robert. Welcome back to Fight Pics. This is episode 13, and today I am going to be covering a hell of a fight and probably one of the most anticipated lighter weight class fights in a very long time. Two pound for pound stars. Let's start off with Junto Nakatani versus Naoya Inoue. Right off the bat, this is going to be a great fight. I don't care about any debates that say this fight is a one-sided fight because regardless of who you're picking, it's not going to be a one-sided fight. Both guys are extremely skilled and talented. It will be close. Now let me cover the specifics so you can really understand and see what I'm saying here by calling it this close. So let me dive into Junto Nakatani's fight style and some of the issues he has with his game. Junto Nakatani is a 5'8" super bantamweight, and he is known for his devastating power along with having a very fan-friendly fight style. He fights in the southpaw stance and does so very effectively. Nakatani has a very wide stance, which he uses to generate more power into his punches. When in his stance, he usually leans to the left side of his body, which lowers his frame even more. His footwork is underrated, and he has the ability to stick and move with his jab while setting up powerful combinations and counters as well. Against fighters whom he doesn't respect in terms of power, Nakatani walks them down. He did this against Ryosuke Nishida, Tansana Salapat, and David Cuellar Contreras, all of whom he stopped before the second half of the fight. Nakatani feints with his lead hand very well. He paws with it, feints with it, and taps with it, all in order to set up a powerful shot after. Defensively, Nakatani seems to prioritize footwork and head movement. He likes to dip and slip and then pivot in order to effectively exit the danger zone. Nakatani's most powerful punch is his left hand, whether it be looping, straight, or in the form of an uppercut. He has countless knockouts that have come from this one punch alone. He is the winner for 2023 Knockout of the Year when he flattened Jason Maloney out cold with a counter overhand left, right on the button. Nakatani has great uppercuts, and they are very underrated because he usually lands them in combination. He doubles up on his uppercuts very well, and he will sometimes land a single uppercut in order to pivot right after. When Nakatani commits to big 3-punch or more combinations, he ends up leaving himself open. This is due to his footwork, and he often finds himself off balance. Nakatani has great footwork, but in moments he can be vulnerable because he trips up on his feet, squares up, and that is not a good look if you are fighting on the inside. Though he can box relatively well on the outside, Sebastian Hernandez was able to overwhelm Nakatani as the fight went on. This fighting style of boxing and counterpunching with power didn't work against a fighter in Hernandez who could take everything that Nakatani was giving him. Nakatani was getting hit often in this fight, and he showcased a relatively good chin, but you could tell he doesn't have an iron chin. Artiki Cortez had a short moment in his fight against Nakatani. He caught Nakatani sleeping and caught him on the chin with a straight right hand that stunned Nakatani. Nakatani had his hands down and he was exiting range, which left him wide open for one of those big shots, and his legs buckled. Now I'm going to be covering Naoya Inoue's fight style along with the issues that have been present throughout his whole career. Naoya Inoue is a 5'5" pressure fighter and has become very well recognized for his extremely fun fight style and his ability to just brutalize his opponents with devastating combinations. Footwork wise, Inoue fights many different ways. Sometimes he fights with his feet planted, and he does this so he is always able to counter his opponent with utmost power. Other times he will stick and move with his jab and straight punches in an in and out kind of movement. In these moments he is usually very comfortable, and he will mix in hooks into his combinations. Inoue has very fast hands, and he uses them in multi-punch combinations that overwhelm his opponents. He doesn't headhunt and targets the body very often. His hooks, uppercuts, and straight rights are all very effective when he is exchanging and unloading. Defensively, Inoue uses his high guard and his head movement the most. He uses his high guard a little bit too much though. Evidently, his high guard is relatively easy for higher level fighters to pierce through. Akhmadaliev and Cardenas found a lot of success ripping hooks around the guard of Inoue. Inoue is far too comfortable with shelling up like this, and it is an area of his game that makes me really curious. He doesn't have to be shelling up like this because it never really benefits him. I don't know why he does it, but it's definitely a bad habit he's got to fix. Inoue has power in all variations of punches. Whether it being uppercuts, hooks, or straights, he is able to generate devastating power in all of his combinations and all punch types. Inoue has a nasty left hook to the body. He sets this shot up with multiple punches. He uses his jab, straight right, or left hook in order to make room downstairs for that left hook to the body. When Inoue is loading up for a power punch, his hands often do drop, which leads to him being vulnerable for counters. Ramon Cardenas and Luis Neri made him pay in devastating fashion for these mistakes. Both fighters sat down Inoue hard with a counter. However, Inoue would get up and go on to dominate both fighters en route to stoppage wins and comeback wins. Inoue also stands too tall sometimes, which leaves his chin open mid-combination. When he is too aggressive, it can be dangerous for him, despite his quick reflexes. Inoue is very experienced and has been fighting on the elite level and has been contending for world titles for more than a decade. This experience alone, along with the skills he possesses that haven't faded fully yet, it's just something you really have to consider when picking this fight. Inoue's durability is the only downside of his experience. He has had wars with many fighters, which over time has led to him being stunned more often than usual in most of his recent fights especially. Now I'm going to cover the fight specifics and my prediction at the very end. When you get on the inside with Nakatani, his stance and his guard leave openings. This, along with the fact that he isn't really an inside fighter, makes me wonder how Inoue will exploit this area of Nakatani's game. When Nakatani squares up or loses his footwork, he can be vulnerable on the inside. Artegi Cortez found short success against Nakatani in their fight, and Sebastian Hernandez arguably beat Nakatani. Inoue is at a very high level in this area of boxing. His lightning fast and precise combinations make it hard for me to see Nakatani fighting well in the inside against Inoue. We know Nakatani can counterpunch very well, but Inoue is sharp, very sharp, and he anticipates counters most of the time. We know Nakatani can counterpunch very well, but Inoue is also very sharp and anticipates counters a lot of the time, especially if he has you pinned or standing right in front of him. He can be timed every now and then, but it is when he is overcommitting without regard for his defense. I think Inoue will be much more patient in this fight and will make sure he doesn't run into any devastating punches, especially against a puncher like Junto Nakatani. I think Nakatani will approach this fight looking for that counter knockout. He has seen how Inoue opens himself up sometimes to land his own offense. Nakatani though struggled heavily in his last fight against a pressure fighting Mexican, Sebastian Hernandez. Sebastian Hernandez walked down Nakatani and eventually tired him out in the latter half of the fight. Inoue won't fight as aggressively as Hernandez did, but he will definitely fight on the front foot and look to overwhelm Nakatani. Inoue doesn't waste punches and he will find his shots against Junto Nakatani. We haven't seen Nakatani as vulnerable in durability as we have seen Inoue lately, but that is also due to the competition level they are both fighting at. Inoue has been fighting young contenders, former champions as of recently, and hasn't had an easy fight due to just being ranked so high. Nakatani, however, hasn't shown that same knockout power that he had in fights against Andrew Maloney and Alejandro Santiago. We know he could still hit, but some fighters at a certain level stop knocking people out because of the competition level. Inoue is starting to age, and it is clear in his most recent fights, but he is still dominating and winning nearly every round in every fight he has. With all that said, this is a tough pick. Everyone is looking at Junto Nakatani's last fight and is thinking this is a given win for Inoue. It is not. Nakatani is very dangerous and has the arsenal to beat a fighter like Inoue. I just think the experience difference will prove to be too much for the young Junto Nakatani. I am picking Naoya Inoue to stop Junto Nakatani in the later half of the fight. My pick is round 9. Thank you guys for watching. This fight is crazy. This is literally like the most anticipated lower weight class fight like I can even recall of recently, because we've had a lot of like unification fights at the weight classes, but there's never been like two pound for pound guys fighting, because there really isn't anyone as dominant as these two guys. Sure, you have a Bam Rodriguez, you have a Oscar Collazo, but those guys are all separate divisions. They're also just so good at what they do. Look at Bam Rodriguez. All the guys he's fighting champions. He's stopping everybody. He's making unified champions looking average. He's making legends like Estrada look average. It's hard to get guys like those to fight other higher level competition because there's nothing out there for them, especially being at that kind of weight class. So the fact that these two Japanese stars, these two Japanese greats are meeting together to fight is something that's really great for boxing. I'm really looking forward to it. This fight's probably going to be at like 5 in the morning. I'm going to get up to watch it though, because that's how good a fight it is. Thank you for watching. Let me know who y'all got in the comments. Are you picking Junto Nakatani to pull off the upset and stop Naoya Inoue putting the first loss on his record? Or are you picking Inoue to keep on his streak of just domination, and are you picking him to beat the young Nakatani, who I think is a little overmatched here in terms of experience despite being so high level? Well, as I said, thank you for watching. See y'all next time.